Hello everyone, welcome back, and it's been a little bit since I made a video again. I actually recorded that one, pre-recorded that one for quite a while ago, but considering that The Walking Dead just ended randomly, abruptly, the comic, I feel like now's a good chance to actually talk about some of the things with The Walking Dead 193 issue. So, kind of an odd number to leave it on, you know. I thought it would be 195. I'm all really weird about numbers, so I'm trying to make comic book my own. So someday when I end it, I would want to end it around like 200 or something at least, a very round number. So it's just kind of weird, kind of annoys me more than anything. It's kind of interesting. They threw those covers in 194, 5, and I think 6. To kind of even throw the catalog off for the Walking Dead, like the comics from Skybound itself. So that's kind of a big deal. Just straight up like throw even the company off itself from the catalog. So I mean, because everyone is making a big deal about Indian Rick, anyways, I mean, his name and everything. I guess if you follow those cover stories, you see Carl die. I didn't understand that part. But Robert Kirkman made this whole thing. He said he apologized or blah blah blah. Like who cares? Whatever his reason is. It doesn't really matter. You're the author. Man up to it and say, you know what? I didn't want to do it anymore. I'm tired. That's what I would have said. you know, I feel like a lot of the time, like this is how if I had watched Bleach from the beginning, this is how I would feel. I think about the ending because I knew about the ending to Bleach before I knew that much about it. Before I actually started reading it, and the ending was very, very abrupt. People are like, "What?" And it's a couple weeks, but this was like immediate. Um, yeah. So that out of the way, I think the overall issue was pretty good. Um, I think doing a time jump was pretty interesting. Seeing the Commonwealth as a big society is interesting because there are a lot of characters like Negan, Laura, um, basically the rest of the Savior group, and yeah, just a lot of other characters. They're like, nah, screw it. We're gonna just hang out outside the city, which is cool. I think we saw. I don't think we saw Yumiko much. We never got Yumiko in manga. Magna much. We didn't really see that much of them. It's too bad. It would have been nice to see them. We saw Aaron and Jesus. They got a kind of a weird send off. It's just like, oh, we're old. Okay. I mean, I was expecting more like talking from other people. We follow Carl around, which is the natural pecking order that we'd follow Carl next. It's pretty cool. I mean, Carl Grimes is a character that I think a lot of us have always wanted to see. What would happen if he just kind of led the show, kind of thing. And he did a pretty good job in this issue of being able to, lead by example and kind of just be a good leader. He's got this eye patch thing that looks kind of medieval, or I don't know. It just looks a lot more sophisticated, but in an older style way. It's kind of cool. And actually, this gets addressed because I was like, why is he wearing it? I thought Lydia talked him into not wearing it because, and we get Lydia, and boy, you know what? I don't care what anyone says. That was the happiest moment for me because seeing Lydia alive is a huge step in the right direction for Robert Kirkman as a writer because every villain, other than Negan, because Negan's Negan, I feel like if the story kept going, people would have been like, no, no, we can't have a Whisperer. Like the Commonwealth would have brought it up and like, no, 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 we can't have somebody that used to like, wear people's flesh inside. We need to kill her. So the fact that she's still alive and doing well, and she looks like a carbon copy of Andrea, in a good way. I think she took her on. I think it's a really cool thing, and I just really wish that she ended up with Carl. I don't understand what is her name? Yeah, Sophia. I don't even. She's such a. To me, she's a forgettable character in the comics. She never really did a whole lot. I mean, even when she did, she indirectly got Carl hit in the head with a shovel. It was her fault for that happening. You know, because she's not strong. And it's just at the end of the day, Lydia was a more interesting character to follow. So it's pretty disappointing that he ends up with her, and there wasn't really much exposition because in one of the later issues, she said, no, no, I like you as a friend. Sophia says this, to Carl, and it's like, okay, so Carl's gonna end up with somebody else or Lydia. No. It's confusing and weird, and I don't really understand it, but Andrea Jr. Is pretty adorable, and I just love how she just wants to hear that story again at the end of the issue. Not because of the story's content, or maybe some of it, but mostly just having to do with the fact that Carl is the one telling her the story, her dad. So that's pretty sweet. And the original story was written for Robert Kirkman's kids, or himself indirectly, I guess, because he needed to, like, what would he do in that situation if the world were to end? And I think that's pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to wrap up a whole series. There's always going to be a lot of loose ends, but not seeing Negan was, like, disappointing, especially because it's like, oh, well, Negan's alive. I guess we see him by a grave and all this stuff, and it's like, I wanted to actually see it. We see this weird Rick Grimes statue. It's just kind of crazy to see a Rick Grimes statue. I think this means the end of the show. I mean, I don't see the show. It's good. I mean, the shows, they can only go to max, like, I don't know, 12 seasons or something. Thank God, because the show is just so bad that I wouldn't even want the show to succeed further. However, because of Fear, if they were to end Fear and then merge that into The Walking Dead, boy, that just sounds awful. But all those plot lines would have to get resolved, meaning that there would be more seasons, which is not a good thing. Anyways, I think the way they ended it, and the way I didn't really like Maggie's character at De-Evolution. She was kind of a scumbag. She basically became the governess. It's like this endless cycle. Like, the governess, and she was so focused on her work that she didn't care. And that was basically the end of Carl's, the Glenn's kid, and it's just something that's really kind of disappointing. Glenn's kid, Herschel, he doesn't represent either of those characters. He just becomes a spoiled, rotten brat. There's no way around it. He tries to make a living off of dead corpses. And at the end of the day, I think something that Carl should have said during that hearing was, hey, look, this guy is profiting off of we have to remember that those things, those zombies, at this point, just call them zombies, Enough with the walker thing. You should just be like, those things are dangerous. Like, yes, that's true. But at the same time, we have to remember that those are people. We cannot profit off of people. At this point, this is slavery. I mean, it seriously is. It's like they're brain dead, but it's still slavery. It's profiting off of people that are less fortunate or dead, basically. Brain dead. It's like, if you had a circus of freaks, people that had, like, brain things, back in the early, like, 1800s or whatever, they, like, oh, well, this guy has, he's brain dead, so let's just, have him around and in a cage, and let's profit off him and have a show. It's like, no, that's messed up. Like, no matter how you make it. So I think Carl, just doing that with Michonne's sword and slicing those zombies up and shooting the one. That one was heading toward his family. I would have done any one of us would have done the same thing. I don't care about private property, and that got a little annoying. It's like, do we really need a court hearing? And then Judge Hawthorne, I thought, oh, this is lame. But then it ended up being Michonne, which is cool, and then she ends up, like, hearing it out, and I love how she's like, you really think I was going to send you to prison? Like, my favorite person. Like, it was good that they had a moment, because they had a lot of moments. She knew Rick Grimes, so that was cool. He actually tries to visit Negan. Well, he's with Lydia, I forgot to mention that earlier, but they try to visit Negan, and he says, I just like the fact that he knew who he was, and not just as a hero, but as just a person, so that's kind of cool. Yeah, you see, I guess what they're probably going to do with the show is have Judith in this position, which would be really weird, but pretty cool at the same time. That time jump was like, wow, like, I think it was like 40 years. It seemed like it was a long time, what's his name? The blacksmith, Earl, he was not doing so well. I guess he's deteriorating, and he says this line where he's like, well, I guess it's good that I spared my dad. It's like, yeah, I guess, but like, dude, Carl, like, you lost both of your parents and you're like, what, 16? Like, or, I don't know, probably less than that, like 14 or 15. Like, he acts a lot older. It's like the Itachi um, appearance in Naruto. It's like, oh, he looks old. Like, he's in this organization, he has this look. No, no, no. He's a lot younger than you think. And that really puts in perspective some of the things he's seen. Same with Carl. You know, he's seen a lot of stuff. And so that's where I think a lot of this stuff, you know, people think that he's a lot older when he lost both of his parents at actually a pretty young age, you know, in his teenage years. Um, so yeah, I think Lydia ends up with the guy. Actually, maybe not. I thought she ended up with the guy that was one of those whisper people. That never got resolved either. There was like four whispers that they found after Beta was killed. And they're like, oh, well, you can become part of our society. But then they're like, oh, you know, low key, we're not gonna like do anything like that. That's crazy. Like you would think that like these like survivors. Yeah, I don't know. It's just like you would think that the whisperers would there'd be like some recommend like punishment, you know. Yeah, there's a lot of open things that just I mean like were the novels ever apply like that didn't the novels should have been cleared up like the whole Woodbury thing because there was a novel about Woodbury and Lily taking charge and all that and they're in this timeline and they were never confirmed dead so and then there was that thing with Rick Grimes' brother he's dead obviously it was a one shot whatever side thing but there's this lady like Claudia. Like, is she supposed to get brought back in the series? You know, maybe they should just have a novel. They probably should have a series of novels to kind of you know, clean some of this up because Naruto did that too. Bleach, you know, all these series that ended. You know, I'm just thinking long running written series had to do these kind of things. These light novels or these you know not heavy, super crazy long novels because the things didn't get resolved in the issue. I didn't like Maggie and that whole thing, like I said earlier, so that was kind of disappointing. Court hearings were a little bit slow. It was a little bit long to read. There was a lot of dialogue. Seeing older Carl was great. Sophia, I guess. I mean, give or take. Oh yeah, Eugene made a little train thing, which was pretty cool. Poor Eugene doesn't feel good, I guess, like physically at all. And his lady is also dead. I don't know how she died. It was kind of weird how she just, she's dead. You know, he already lost Rosita and the baby. Like, he's lost so much. Sadiq, where'd that guy go? There's so many characters that it was like, where'd they go? You know, that you should have shown each one of them at this point. The princess, um, what's his name? You know, the guy that looked like Mr. T. I can't even remember these characters' names because they just pop. They just are so insignificant at times. You know, Dwight not being there. You know, it's just still disappointing. Why did they kill Dwight off if it led to nothing? It led to absolutely nothing. There was no resolve with that. You know what? It doesn't matter if Robert Kirkman says that he had planned an ending. It doesn't matter what he says. It doesn't matter anything else. The real reason for the ending, I think, and I think it was just fatigue. You know, you've been doing this series since 2003. You know, you've had lawsuits over like crazy stuff, like the original artists sued them. There's a whole court thing for that. There's a whole court thing for like, you know, Frank Darabont and that whole thing. You know, those things wear on you. It makes this series less enjoyable to write. And then people didn't like the Commonwealth, and then it was just like it's exhausting. And you could tell right when they got to the Commonwealth, like Michonne's daughter, like they were just trying to tie it up. It did seem, ever since the Whisper War ended, it was lackluster at times and very slow and very confusing. There was no conflict. There was literally no physical conflict for a series like The Walking Dead for a while. I mean, the zombies just became so irrelevant, and it's a little bit disappointing. But I've talked enough about this series, but yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts? Did you think that was a good conclusion? Um, what are your lasting thoughts on the series? Mine are that I don't know if I would suggest it to somebody. Um, Definitely wouldn't suggest a series because of how crazy slow it starts, and then it starts picking up good in the middle, and then you get really bad to like inconsistencies towards like the latter seasons. And then with the comics, same way. I feel like it starts off, but the comic starts off really strong, and then it just I don't know. I don't know. It's just I don't know. I don't know how to feel about it. Um, so yeah, just what are your thoughts about it? I'd like to know. See you till next time.